Hi guys, welcome to my channel. We have a little bit of a different setup today because today I am doing the DNF video. DNF video. I say that as if it's a tag. What I mean basically is that today I'm going to go through all of the books that I did not finish on my bookshelves, and it's quite a few. So I'm gonna just hop right into it. These are in two different stacks. Stack number one is the books that I actually intend to finish. Stack number two are the books that I'm probably not going to finish. Other than that, these are in no particular order. So we'll just start with the one I have at the top of the stack, which is Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. I started this I don't know how many years ago, but I wanted to read it after I had watched the movie, which I really liked, but I don't know if I wanted to read something else at the time, but I just couldn't get into it. But I do intend, as with the rest of this stack, I do intend on reading it, trying to read it again at some point. The next one is Stephen King's The Green Mile. This is another one where I saw the movie and I really loved it and I wanted to read the book, but for some reason I set it down and I didn't get back to it. The next book is also by Stephen King. It's Mr. Mercedes. I actually started this book several months back and I put it down, I think, to read something else. I really don't remember why I stopped reading it. The next one we have on the stack, and I got this from a resale shop, so it doesn't have a dust cover, but ooh, I even have a tissue in the place where I marked it where I last read, but it's the Chronicles of Narnia, and they're all together in this one big book. And I started reading it, and out of all these pages from all the different stories, I don't know, there's almost 800 pages. I got to page 85 and I stopped. The next one is The Man Without a Face. I believe this also has a movie, and I got this from a library sale because it has an old library sticker on it, but I don't remember why I stopped reading it. This one I started and stopped a few months ago. It's about Jane Goodall. I guess I just wasn't really feeling in a biographical mood at the time. The next one is Agenda 21, Into the Shadows, a thriller by Glenn Beck with Harriet Park. This one I found in the supermarket and I thought it sounded super interesting. It was once named America, but now it's just the Republic. So I read the synopsis and it kind of sounded like a Hunger Games dystopian type of book, and it sounded really interesting, but I never got around to finishing it. I marked it with something, I don't know why, but I don't use bookmarks very much. I got to page 14 and I used a straw wrapper to mark my place. The next book is Sabriel by Garth Nix, which I started reading from my school library in the 7th grade, and I just felt like it was over my head at the time. I'm not really sure why, but I returned it to the library, but I found it at a secondhand shop years later, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna finish that book. And I marked it with a doctor appointment card, which I'm not going to show you, and I got to page 31, which was chapter 2. So I do plan on finishing this, I just haven't gotten around to it yet. The next book is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Around the time I bought this, the hype was up so big and I guess I wanted to read it, but I stopped and I don't remember why. Next book I have here is actually not one book, but 5 complete novels by Agatha Christie. I don't know if it shows where I started or I stopped. But anyway, I think I actually did complete one of the novels, so I don't know if I'd call this a complete DNF, but here's this one. The next one is 1984 by George Orwell. I have actually tried to read this a couple of times and just never finished it, but it's a classic and it has a lot of hype surrounding it, so at some point I am going to finish this book. The next book is a book that I know that I was really enjoying at the time. I don't remember why I stopped, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy finishing it, but it's All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Yeah. I actually marked my place with an envelope and I was at page 180. My next DNF was the first Game of Thrones book by George R.R. Martin. These are pretty chunky. I have the mass market paperbacks and these are pretty chunky books. And I got to I used a real bookmark and I got to page 302 and I don't know what stopped me, but I stopped it. But one thing's for sure, I'm probably going to have to restart it and not start where I left off because I remember nothing. The next book on this list is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I remember starting to read this and just really not liking it, but it is loved by so many people that maybe I just didn't give it much of as good of a chance as I should have, so I'm going to try to read this one again, and it's been a few years, so maybe my perspective has changed. The next book is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I didn't finish this book because I was not enjoying this book, and once I do finish this book, I'm probably going to have a rant video about it because there are plot lines in this book that I do not agree with and I do not like and I do not think should be in it, and I do not feel like it's written like a Harry Potter book, even though J.K. Rowling's name is written in big letters. Obviously it was also written by John Tiffany and Jack Thorne, and I think that those are the true authors because this does not sound like a Rowling novel to me. So I'm gonna stop rambling on about this, but this is a current did not finish, but I am going to finish it even for the sake of making a rant video. The next book is The Lady of the Rivers by Philippa Gregory. I believe this is the 3rd book in the White Queen series, and I read the first 2 and I really enjoyed them, but I must have got caught up in school or something and I just never continued with the series. The next book is The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. I was not in a place emotionally where I was able to read this book at the time because of its sensitive content. I might have tried to read it twice, I'm not sure, but I kept it anyway because I've heard that it's a beautiful book and I do intend on reading it someday. The next book is The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. This is one of my favorite movies. I know that's such a cliche, that chick flick, but I started this book and got into something else, but it's a pretty short read, so at some point, and maybe even in the upcoming year, I'm going to finish this book. The next one is A Dog's Purpose by W. Bruce Cameron, and I was really enjoying this book, and like I said about so many of these other books, I don't remember why I put it down, but I was enjoying it and I definitely intend on finishing it because so far it's been a really sweet story. This next book came with its own bookmarker, and that's Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, and the hype around this book was so huge that I asked for it, I think for Christmas or for my birthday, and I started reading it, and it didn't really grab my attention, so I think I moved on to something else, but I do intend on finishing it at some point. The next book is Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, and I used a receipt to keep my place, and I stopped on page 188, so I got a good chunk of the way through, and I think it just lost my attention, but like I said, I'm probably going to come back to it. The next book I DNF'd was Hunger Games by Susanna Collins. I don't know why I didn't finish it. Oh, actually I do. At the time I was borrowing it from my sister and she wanted it back, so I never ended up renting it from the library or buying it myself, so I didn't get to finish it. But I did buy it from a secondhand shop last year or something like that, so at some point I'm gonna finish this book. As you can see, the books are actually piling up behind me. The next book I have is another Stephen King book, and it's The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I thought I was gonna like this book, and it's one of his shorter books. I remember sitting in my grandpa's truck reading it, and I just got bored, so I'll probably come back to it, but there's a lot of Stephen King books I own that I need to come back to or to read. The next book is The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. I was really enjoying this book, and I marked my place with another doctor card, another doctor appointment card, and I was on chapter 12, page 170 when I stopped this book, and I think school might have gotten in the way, but I remember I was enjoying it. But one thing's for sure, because of the plot, I'm probably going to have to restart it if I'm going to finish it. The next book is Insurgent by Veronica Roth. I got really far in this book. I got more than halfway, and I used a Splenda wrapper to mark my place. 314, so I was more than halfway through with this, and I don't know why I stopped. The next is Romeo and Juliet. I just lost interest, I think. I wasn't used to reading play form, so I stopped reading it, but it's been several years, so I'm probably going to give it another go. The next book is, and this is the final book on the stack of books which I intend on finishing, and that is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This book just kind of lost my interest. I thought I would really love it, but I didn't get very far, and I used an actual bookmark for this one, and I got to page 20 and I didn't give it much of a chance, so I think I owe this one a better shot. Finally are the books that I'm probably not going to finish. The first one is The Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews. I watched the movie and I really loved the movie, so I wanted to read the book, but I have so much other things that I want to read that I'm just probably not going to get back to this one. Next one is Joan of Arc by Mark Twain. I really love the history of Joan of Arc. I find that so interesting, and the fact that it was written by Mark Twain I thought was pretty cool. I also really love the cover art, but when I was reading it I just lost interest. The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane. I just remember really not liking this book when I was reading it, so I'm probably not going to go back to it. And last but not least is John Green's Paper Towns. I did not finish this book, obviously, because that's what the video is about, because it just felt like his other books. I didn't like the female protagonist whose name I don't remember. It might have been Margot or something like that. She kind of reminded me of Alaska in Looking for Alaska, who I hated. Sorry if you like that book, but everyone's entitled to their opinions, and I hated Looking for Alaska. I didn't hate it when I first started reading it, and immediately after, I just kind of thought it was disappointing. And then the more I thought about it, the more I disliked the characters. So the female character just reminded me of Alaska, and I couldn't finish it. Alright, so I think this video has gone on long enough. These are all of the books that I did not finish. I appreciate you watching. Please hit the like and the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!